Hey everyone, Scott here to discuss John Wick Chapter 2. I love the way Lawrence Fishburne says that. Starring Keanu Reeves, and I'll only name it there, and directed by Chad Stahelski. Now, I did see this in theaters, and what do I think of it then versus now? Let's get into it, shall we? John Wick, returned by Keanu Reeves, is going after the motherfuckers who has his car, which is Vigo's brother, aka Yosef's uncle, and he gets there and kills all of his men and has a drink with the man who has his car and shoots his dumb ass back to next week. And he gets his car back and smashes it on people and into pieces. Which my problem with that is, isn't that something he didn't want to do, but yet he's doing it and smashes it into bits anyways? But overall, the action sequence was a bloody good time, I'll say that much. John returns home with this bulldog who doesn't have a name until Santino has a job to do, which is involving killing Santino's own sister in Rome. But John declines at first, and Santino blows up his beautiful home and walks to the hotel for a hitman called the Continental, and talks with Winston, returned by Ian McShane, about the job he was offered by Santino. And I like Winston, and I also like John as his new bulldog. I really enjoyed the setting of Rome. It looks absolutely gorgeous, might I add. John gets a room in the Continental of Rome, and the manager at the hotel, Julius, gives him a very nice room and goes hunting and buys lots of guns and goes to the club where Santino's sister is at, and as she slits her wrists, he shoots and kills her until an old colleague of John's named Cassian, played by the rapper Common, and they fight and shoot each other until they get to the Continental Hotel, and they do have a strict idea of fighting, and I guess that's the case with all the rules of the Continental. Looks beautiful, and the fight was kick-ass. And as for Cassian, I'm not a fan of Common, but I usually like the characters he plays in movies in general, in other movies in my opinion. John finds out he was set up by Santino and his assistant Ares, played by Ruby Rose. Santino puts a bounty on John for $7 million, and as he gets back to America, John gets attacked by a violent lady and snaps her neck to a big guy by shooting his neck to 3 guys and stabs them with a pencil. Oh my god. To a couple of guys and shoots and chokes them out to Cassian, following him on the train until a lot of people leave the subway, and there's a very little people left there that just sit there and watch until John stabs Cassian and tells them not to take it out, and a couple of guys chase him, and a homeless man shoots them, and all of that got from me ooh and oh shit and damn reaction out of me, because that was so fucking brutal. But I'm still having a bloody good time. The homeless man brings John to the Bowery King, played by Lawrence Fishburne, which was a nice Matrix reunion. John asks for the Bowery King's help, and Santino sets him up, and John is the only one who can help him, which did feel kind of muddled. But the Bowery King gives John a gun, and John goes to the museum where Santino likes to go to, and John goes after the Santino with not just one gun, but others from the guards, and he leads to a room full of mirrors and fights off his personal bodyguard Ares, played by Ruby Rose, like I said earlier, who I reviewed in this movie. And that was a brutal battle, and John stabs her, and Santino goes to the hotel, or should I say the Continental in New York, and dines with Winston, and John arrives behind him and have a brief talk, and John shoots Santino in the head, which leads to the final scene of Winston at the park, telling John he's next on the hit list, but delays it for 1 hour as he runs for his life. And I like seeing Larry Fishburne, and I like the museum shootout, and I enjoyed John's shot Santino, and I was on the edge of my seat waiting for next week's movie. Now it's time for the rating. I'll give this movie a 8.5 out of 10. The action was a very brutal and bloody good time, and I like these characters, and I enjoyed myself watching this thing. I've accepted Ruby Rose as a badass, and I really like seeing Keanu Reeves and Lawrence Fishburne back together from the Matrix trilogy. So yeah, this is a fun time. So I'd like to thank you guys for joining me, and next week I will be back with the final chapter for now, John Wick Chapter 3, Parabellum, and I'll talk about that next week. And until next time, no more guns, John. No more bullets.